everyone. Here we are, finally. Here with us, Niter. Hello, Niter. Thank you again to accept this invitation and being with
Of course.
us in
Yeah,
the
no, super
podcast.
happy to be here.
Cool, cool. I'm really happy to have you here. And from my side, again, thank you for accepting this invitation. And I also here with Nicaz, our international co-host. Hello, Nicaz.
Well, guys, I'm keeping my promise. In the last podcast, I said that I was going to show up naked. I'm naked in my face, as you
Yeah,
can
there you
see.
go.
Shaved my beard.
That counts.
Niter, let me quick introduce you to you our podcast. Our main audience is Brazilian, but we also have some English speakers who follow us using the YouTuber automatic translation as well. We are mainly Web2 gamers, focus on PvP and GVG content. Uh,
Okay.
I can affirm that our main audience is endgame players. We have a great relation with all strongest players in their game, and also the guilds. Every guild we have a great relation. As TGG, for example, Nicaz is here with me, and also with GG, for example, PvP. A lot of the strongest guilds are with us, is our audience,
Mm.
and we have a great relation with them. Every Sunday we made episode commenting the GVGs, the results of the GVGs, and also what happened in the whole wiki. Talking about the PvP that we had in
Mhm.
the open world, but the main focus is the GVG that we have on Saturdays. Is
Cool.
always a nice conversation. We receive a lot of people from the community,
Yeah.
not not just the leadership of these guilds, but also some important names of the community. It's always
Mhm.
very fun to have them and share their opinion. Is really nice. I
Yeah,
don't know
yeah.
if you had any opportunity to listen us. I know that it's hard because it's in
Uh-huh.
Portuguese most of the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, unfortunately, because I'm not able to. But I've only heard good things. Like Bunny was heavily telling me to hop on. So yeah, here I am, and I'm excited to be here. And thank
Cool.
you for speaking English with me.
Yeah, cool. We also have some international interviews as Germs, for
Mhm.
example, from Explorer.
Oh
We
yeah,
have it
that's
he here. Repay from GG, Aikatsu from PvP. That is strongest guild in the open world. We have the leadership here to talk. It's an important step to bring the international community close for the Brazilian community.
Mhm.
It,
Definitely. Yeah, it's nice when those bridge over a bit more
Mhm,
because like listen, I grew up playing Tibia, so I know there's always been a heated rivalry there.
mhm,
More so I know with Polish guilds and Brazilian guilds on the server that I played on.
mhm,
But it's awesome when those kind of bridge over. And even if it is like I mean obviously GG is a big competing guild for
mhm,
you guys, even when you're able to bridge that over and be like, in the end of the day, we're all gamers, right?
mhm.
And I love seeing people PvP and like guild rivalries in the game. Like I again, my background in MMOs has always been PvP. It's what I
Mhm.
love in MMOs. And when it's like a healthy level of competition, that's
Mhm.
awesome. I think it's like so good for games, as long as it stays in a healthy dosage. But for the most part, it does. Like, and it's so cool to see
Cool.
those like kind of storylines build up.
Cool. We love the PvP of the Robin Quest. The jugability is pretty nice. We love this. The first question for you: how familiar are with the PvP community on the Raven Quest? Do you know the names of the most? Do you keep your eye on drama and guild drama? Do you know the names of the players or guilds most competitive in
Yeah.
the PvP open world?
Yeah, so definitely I'm aware, especially on the guild side, like when it
Mhm.
comes down to like every single player, too many names to keep in track of, but definitely when it comes to the guilds, I'm definitely aware of like kind of where guilds are positioned right now. Even looking at like the expedition leaderboard
Mhm.
coming up, like
Mhm.
I know kind of who are going to be competing for different positions.
I see.
And so and then definitely with guild versus guild and stuff, we're kind of always checking it each week and the results of that. But in terms of like every single specific player, maybe not as much, but a lot of you guys have, you know, TGG or GG or 90 tags and stuff in your name. So I'm pretty good at associating a name to which guild they're in.
Cool.
Like as soon as you said Repage, I'm like, oh, yeah, GG. So
Cool. Uh, I know that your team has quite of a few Brazilians working on it. Have you managed to pick up anything in Portuguese language? For example, do you know something in Portuguese?
you were right. You were going to bring out some hard questions. So to my shame and embarrassment, I still do not speak Portuguese, even though about half of our team is Brazilian Portuguese. This is honestly just, I'm very bad with languages. I grew up with a German family, or Austrian, but they speak German. And I, like, in my entire life being around that, I could still not speak it. I could understand it if people talk in German, but I still can't really speak it to this day. I'm good at numbers. I'm terrible with languages. Even we have a joke in the studio that most of the Brazilian staff speak better English than I do. And it's kind of true. Like they'll correct me on certain things. So I'm just terrible with this. I obviously have picked up, you know, some standard kind of dialogue, but I couldn't follow a conversation or anything like that. And yeah. And I would love to be clear, because it's also one of the coolest languages. Like when you hear someone speak Portuguese, I'm like, it's such a cool language. But yeah, unfortunately, I cannot speak it.
I know that you have been a couple of times here in Brazil, at least to ask for a beer, to order a beer. Do you know how to order a beer?
No, but I know how to in Japanese. But no. It kind of makes it tough because every time we've gone to Brazil, we're with like 30 from our team, right? Like I'm never alone. I'm always with. So if they're ordering a beer, they just order me a beer, and so that makes it harder. Like if I went there, you know, on my own or whatever, like I would be forced to speak more Portuguese. But because I'm with 30 Portuguese natives, I never really have to do anything, which is really nice. And again, it's not for not a lack of wanting to, because if I had the time, like Portuguese would be the language I learn, but also all of our Brazilian staff, they all speak fluent English. Like, you know, there's no really need for me to learn it.
I see.
Yeah. And time is always a tricky one. It's a hard language to learn. Like I was explaining this to my staff, like learning German is very intuitive. Like you read the words the same way as you would in English, where in Portuguese you don't, right? Like, you know, like even just saying today, like you would say like hoji in English, right? Which is like very different, right? And so it's a very hard language to learn as an English speaker, where, you know, German or French are much easier to learn. And so, yeah, it makes it even more difficult. And again, I'm bad at languages. Yeah.
No problem.
Yeah, Portuguese is indeed very difficult, but I even taught a couple of coworkers here in the Netherlands. There's something different about swearing in Portuguese. So I'm gonna give you a mission for the Brazilian staff.
Yes, please do. I would love one. I would love one. I love it. I love it.
I forgot to mention, I'm speaking from Brazil, from São Paulo, and Nicaz is currently living on Netherlands. And always when we have an international guest here, I ask for Nicaz to help us because he lives in abroad a long time, so his English is much better than me.
Your English is great, by the way. Better than my Portuguese. My mom's side of the family, they were Austrian, but my dad's side was Dutch. So my dad was actually from Emmen in the Netherlands. Beautiful country as well. Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
Okay. The game also has a really big community, a Brazilian community. Can we affirm that we are the biggest community in the game? What do you think?
Yeah. So kind of a fun fact there. So when we first shared Raven Dawn back in 2019, A very big Brazilian game podcast spoke about us, and we kind of went a little bit viral in Brazil. And a big part of that is because of Brazil's history with Tibia, right? And where in Canada, like Tibia wasn't really a game. I played it, but everyone played RuneScape, right? In those early days. But in Brazil, of course, like Tibia was the childhood MMO. And so I think that's part of why we went so kind of viral down in Brazil. And also we have a huge Polish community, and that's also probably why, right? Because they also have a background of that, and a lot of Swedish players also because of, Tibia. But and because while the game is wildly different, the perspective is the same, and it's a very unique perspective, right? So it's, if you show it to anyone who didn't play Tibia, they're like, this is like so weird. But for someone to play Tibia, you're like, this is normal. What do you mean, right? And so we kind of went weirdly like viral down there in Brazil. And so suddenly our community was like, at the time, like 90% Brazilian people. And we're like, okay, cool. Like this is great. Like we have a community now and stuff like that. Cause this was back before we even had a test phase. And so because of that, when we were hiring back then as a much smaller studio, like at the time we were like 8 or 9 people, when we would hire, like the best way we could hire was just from the community, right? That was our access. And so because of that, 90% of job applications were from Brazilian people, right? and so then suddenly, like 4 years later, it's like, oh, half the studio is now from Brazil, where previous at the time, only our art director was from Brazil. The rest of the team was from North America and Europe. And so it's kind of interesting how that happens. And now the community it's about 40% from Brazil. So it's not as high. But it is still the largest community, and that's why we're localized in Portuguese first, right? And why we made such a priority to localize in Portuguese, even though like Spanish is a bigger language. We were like, no, we have a huge community of Portuguese people. Let's do this to make sure, that they're taken care of first. And so Brazil is our largest community, not as much as it was, because now we have a lot more Europeans playing, but it's definitely Brazil, and then Poland is number 2. Cool. In terms of like specific countries. But right now about 40% of our community is Brazil, about 40%, maybe 35% is Europe, and then the rest is kind of NA and SEA.
Really nice to learn that, because we have never seen any official data, and it's just a matter of thinking, because it's our perception.
Yeah, cool. I will say this: the Brazilian community is the most talkative, like the most involved in Discord, and definitely the most like hardcore in the game. So this is something that I think also makes it even feel larger. Like even if it is 40%, it feels like 60 or 70 because the Brazilian players are so much more like passionate, right? And I've said this about my first trip to Brazil 4 years ago. 3 or 4 years ago, the first time I went there, what was so unique to me is, and something that's very cool about Brazil and why I genuinely just like fell in love with Brazil as a country. And I love Canada, but Brazil is so uniquely different from Canada. Like people in Brazil are so much more like passionate, like they show their passion so much more. In Canada, it's almost like not cool to be passionate about things. Like it's like taboo almost. Where in Brazil, like just going to a BGS compared to a game convention here in North America, like everyone is so passionate and excited and proud of it, I guess is the difference. And I always, and we have that here too, but in Brazil, it just felt like so different, like a different level. And we see that with the players too. Like they're so much more passionate about the game they play. And that can be good and it can be bad, right? At times it can be a lot of headache, but we would rather the headache that comes with that and the passion than, them not being passionate about it. Cause it is something really special too, right?
I need to say, I have been several times in Canada. I have some friends that live nearby Niagara Falls.
East Coast Canada.
Yeah. And I love that people as well. Canadian
Yeah,
is
very
really
friendly.
kind. Yeah, very friendly, very
Very,
kind.
very friendly, very safe.
Yeah.
Like I will, if you ever come to Canada again, come to West Coast Canada. Okay. It's way better. Because Canada, like America, it's such a big country that it almost feels like a bunch of little countries inside of it. Like the province that we're in, which is by the ocean, like the Pacific Ocean near
see.
Vancouver, it's like it feels very much kind of like Washington slash California, kind of that
I
feeling,
see.
where if you then go just literally one province over, like just to the right of us, it feels like you're in Texas. Like it's all
I
like
see.
cowboy stuff
I
and
see.
and cattle and and then East Coast Canada is just really cold.
Nice,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. So Canada is a very unique country. It's very different wherever you go, like any country, but even more so. It feels like a bunch of little countries. And then we have a French province where everyone
I
speaks
see.
French, and it's like, what the hell? Are we in a different country? But yeah,
Yeah, I know that. I know that. Cool.
yeah.
Cool. The next, uh, talking about the Brazilian community, you can imagine my next question. I think,
Uh-oh.
uh, why we still do not have a South America server? I know that in the
Yeah.
beginning we had as a
Mm,
test server at the
mhm.
beta. I remember that we had that. It was a nice ping. It was amazing.
Yeah.
But up to now, we still does not have it. Is this server?
Yeah. So what I like, I'll share why, but generally what I like to say to the community when they're asking like, why not this or why not this yet or whatever, I like to like tell them like, well, do a little like thought experiment. Like, is there a reason that we wouldn't want to have this? Like, so for example, like maybe we don't want to make everyone, get unlimited Raven cards just by playing because we want people to buy Raven cards, right? So we give a lot, but we don't give them literally a million packs a day, right? So there's like a clear reason why we wouldn't do that. But then for some things, like for example, the South American servers, like there's no reason we wouldn't want to bring this because it's just a good thing. Like like the NA and EU servers, like they're getting low ping regardless there. For South America, like it's one of our biggest communities. Why would we not want to have South American servers? There's no like benefit to us not having them. The reason why we don't have South American servers, and this is pretty long because trust me, I get frustrated by this as well. So we use OVH as our server provider. They're in North America, Europe, and Southeast Asia, and they're very good. They have some of the best DDoS protection in the world, which we get DDoSed literally every day, still 6 months after launch. It always happens. And we need very good protection there, but also we have very unique infrastructure we need. That's why we can't use AWS, which sucks because with AWS, you could just scale up and scale down servers. It's really nice, but because of the hardware we need, we can't use AWS. And so because of that, when we're looking at like South American servers, with them not having OVH down there and us not being able to use like AWS and stuff like that, we need to, one, find a server provider that has the hardware we need, which is tricky. And then two, they need very good DDoS protection. And then three, because we're a live service game, but then three, we also need to make sure that it's a secure data center. We know of another team that was in a data center and someone got into the data center and stole server files and stuff like that. So security is, especially when you're in blockchain, security is very important. And then the last piece is ultimately, our servers all communicate with each other. That's why you can just go to EU or go to NA or go to SCA. And there's a lot of risks if that communication breaks. That's why sometimes when one server crashes, the other servers will have like some issues. And it's because they all have to communicate with each other. Because if they didn't, you could like dupe items pretty easily. And so because of that, we also need a provider that is going to have very, very reliable network connection. Because if it goes down, all the other servers will have issues. And that's the issue that we had when we initially launched with the Brazilian servers like a week before in the stress test, because they had a huge network fault and it made all the servers like desync and suddenly like items could have been duped and stuff, right? And so we were like, okay, well, we can't risk working with you guys if on the first day of testing with you guys, you're having network faults. Like we can't risk that because OVH already has outages and stuff like that, maybe once every month or something. We can't risk one that's having them constantly, right? So So all of those things make it really hard to find the right provider. And even once we find the right one, we can only rely on certain things so much, right? Like they can say, oh, we have 99.9% uptime, and that can be true. But if that downtime is 1 minute once a day, that's catastrophic for us. That's a huge problem, right? And so we also have to like really benchmark them and test them and be like, hey, are you having outages? Or, you know, and so we right now have 3 providers that we like a lot. One is actually in Argentina, so still much lower ping. And we're testing all of them out, but we want to make sure that when we drop it, we don't have like a catastrophic problem. And that requires time to do it the right way. And so I just want to like make super clear that we obviously want South American servers and we are working towards it. Cool. It's just a little bit trickier for us. And also it's trickier for us because of the hardware we need. Like, you know, people will be like, oh, this game has South American servers. Why don't you just use the same servers they use? They might need different hardware, like hardware setup for that. And so it might be easier for them to find, like maybe they can just use AWS, right? Which is easy and fast. And we could set up servers tomorrow if we could, but unfortunately not. And so, yeah, it makes it tricky. We've actually been trying to work with OVH for months now, trying to convince them to get servers down in South America. And they've been saying for that entire time, yeah, we're working on it. We're planning to blah, 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 but they still haven't. And so we're exploring lots of options. But I promise you it's something that we do want to do. Cool. And when we do, you know, you can just start playing on it. So you're not losing any progress or anything like that. And it'll be really nice for South American players. I know that. For sure. I used to grow up playing Korean MMORPGs. So I'm used to playing with a lot of ping. And I know it sucks. I know the first time I played World of Warcraft, I was like, oh my God, I have no ping. And when I played Tibia, I played on Hiberna, which was a European server. So most of my life, I've played games with like 250, 300 ping, and I know it sucks. So yeah, especially for PvP.
Yeah, especially for PvP. The main complaint of the community, the Brazilian community, is about the Rift, I think, for the Rift, for 2v2 arena, for example. This kind of situation when we have a very big ping is really hard to today. Yeah. But okay, it sounds good. At least she is still in the pipeline, is still working on it. We can have hope for the future.
Oh yeah. Like I can assure you that there's no doubt that we want it. And I like to really explain things thoroughly, especially on a podcast like this, because even though people are going to, you know, be bored of me rambling, at least like I can very much clearly state why and that you guys understand. Because I think the worst thing is when you guys don't really understand because only we have this information. You guys wouldn't be able to understand. And then you just think that maybe we don't want to do it or something. Like I like to explain like why it takes time and why we can't just do it tomorrow, even though we would love to, of course.
This is an important point, is next question, because I see that the Tavern Light has improved a lot since basically our community is from having down, and many of things that players asked for and complained back in the having down have been fixed or improving the having quest. Looking back, what was the listening from having down helped to shape the having quest into the game that we have today?
Yeah, so this is something that like it's incredible even for us to look back on 18 months ago when Raven Dawn released, and we're like, man, when we released Raven Dawn, there was no legacy levels, or legacy spells or anything like that. There was no guild versus guild. There was no rifts. There was no, I mean, I can list a million things, but those are like some of the ones that like, it's insane that they didn't even exist. There was no Aether Echoes. There was no, like, it was really just quests and crafting and grinding mobs. There was like no, you know, there's no adventures board. There was none of these things. And to look at what we've done in 18 months, like, it is incredible to us as a team. Like, you know, we always have community members that are like, oh my God, hurry up with X, Y, and Z. And when we look back at what we've done in a year and a half, we're so incredibly proud and we know because we literally like during Christmas holidays, most of us just took a day off. Some didn't even, but like we've worked tirelessly to try and deliver as much as we can because we care so much about the world we're trying to build. But definitely like looking back, it's crazy what the game has evolved to. And I would say like with Raven Dawn, something that like, you know, we built out Raven Dawn originally, right? That was the game that we were delivering. And then we kind of were, you know, back in 2020, we were looking at Web3 stuff, and we were like, one of the biggest things that I've always said that I hated in MMORPGs is I love third party markets. I love gold selling and all that kind of stuff. I don't do it, but I do love what it leads to. I love doing like arena boosts and WoW and stuff like that, right? Even though you barely, you know, even if you're making a couple bucks, it's just kind of like a fun feeling, like, oh, I'm playing and I'm making money, right? It's like a mini esports almost. And but the sad reality.
But Niter, the main point of this question for me
Oh, I
is
see. I didn't want to do.
that I can see a lot of improvement from Tavern Line in the communication with the community. I thought that it improved a lot. And the QA, for example, we had a lot of bugs in the having now that we do not see a lot of bugs here when we implement a new update, for example. This kind of thing, I can see that Tavern Line has improved a lot in this last year.
Yeah. Thank you. And sorry, I do go off track. So thank you for reining me back in.
No
You'll
problem.
need to do that a few times.
No problem.
But yeah, the reality is that's just because we've been able to grow the studio. Raven Dawn was very successful for us as a studio for the size of team we are. It was incredibly successful, and ultimately with that, Raven Quest has been as well. And that's why we kind of keep going back to like when we make like we've been not for profit for 10 years. We've reinvested everything in the studio. That's why we've gone from me by myself 10 years ago to now a team of near 60. And with the QA side, it was just we were able to grow the QA team from one kind of 2 people to a team of like 8, right? And we were able to suddenly have like a very active QA team, and that's the difference, right? And having more developers, more artists, more community managers. We had 1 community manager when we launched Raven Dawn, right? It makes it very hard to like have good communication and all this stuff. It's many times it just comes down to you need more people sometimes. So
I see.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that though. We worked really hard at that. And yeah.
Cool. Would you say that the biggest challenge so far has been keeping having Quest attractive for the both Web2 and Web3 communities? How to balance the expectation of these 2 very different bases?
Yeah, it's been very hard. It's become easier because we always said early on, like, we see Web3 as an advantage. There's lots of benefits to Web3, like just the peer-to-peer trading, safe trading, not using a gold site, stuff like that. It provides a lot of safe alternatives. And also, I think like the, land NFT and stuff, I think that's such a cool thing. But it definitely, like, early on, we made very clear, like, we're not a game. If you're just looking for a game to grind all day to make money, we're not trying to build that game because we don't think that's sustainable. And as a game that we built almost over a decade, we're like, we are not going to just, run this for 6 months and disappear. Like, we want to build something that we can have for years and years and years to come. And so we couldn't just give people $1,000 a week for playing. And so that was really tricky at the beginning because even though we said that so much, people still came in expecting that, right? And we've seen this with every level. I remember when we had Raven card, like when Raven packs gave fame, the first fame drop happened 7 days later, and there were some people like, hey, I bought $100 of cards and I only got like $18 from the fame pool or whatever. Like I didn't profit off this. And I'm like, wait, well, the cards are things that you use in the game to kill creatures, and they give you renown, which lasts forever. I'm like going through all this stuff, and I realized I'm like, oh, they just think that they can spend $100 and a week later they have $150. Like, which is, I don't know in what world anyone thinks that's sustainable. It's a Ponzi scheme, right? And so that's been really hard for us to like manage that because we have the Web3 users that are just like, I just want to profit and make a bunch of money. And then the other community is like, I just want to play a fun game, like make a fun game, right? Yeah. And what we want is people that are kind of in the middle. They're like, hey, there's this, leaderboard thing. Maybe I can make some money. That's cool. Like I'm making money from playing a game. But then also I'm just having fun playing the game in general. And that's how, like, for me, like WoW Arena, like I love playing WoW Arena. If I can make a few bucks, also cool. That it makes it, it makes it even more fun. But that's really hard. But it has improved a lot because that community is gone now. A lot of them have moved on to some boring click simulator game where they can make money. And then also with landowners, we've seen a huge change. A lot of land has moved from like speculators who want to make a quick flip or whatever to people who just want to be able to produce more in the game, right? They're like, oh, I love crafting. I want more materials for crafting, so I'm going to buy land, right? And that's what we want to see more of in terms of the move. We want to see it more go to people who actually want to play the game. And that's why, like, even with buybacks and stuff of land, we want to first allow people to get in at a better price, and then we can supercharge that stuff, because like the player who just wants to use it in the game, we don't want them having to pay twice as much for something if they just want to, that's their benefit. So it's been very tricky to balance, and it's kind of impossible to balance, but we like the community that want to play the game way more than the community that just want to speculate and not even play the game. And because one really cares about what we're making, right? If we drop a new content thing, they're all excited and they're playing in, they invite, they do a LAN party or whatever. The other side, if we drop new content, they're just like, okay, how am I going to make more money? And it's like, feels kind of like gross almost in a way. And so we want to obviously get as much as possible to everybody as well, but we want it to go to people that actually want to play the game as well. So
I see. I totally agree with you. The recent updates brought a lot of new content and improvements to the game. Expeditions in particular feels like a big win the community had been waiting for. Yeah, for sure. And the strongest and the stronger play to earn model has been especially well received for the Web3 community. Yes, is what you just said, but linking the Web3 community with this play to earn, this is really nice for us. I think that is a lot of people is pretty happy with the results of this leaderboard that happened that paid last week. It was really nice. We can see that players who invest in their chart to become stronger, to have a solid gear, finally being rewarded through the leaderboards. And the people who has just extracted up to now are having a lot of trouble. A lot of trouble.
they're angry.
Yeah, they are really angry, and it's good for us who have invested a lot of time and gear and so on.
Yeah, and we knew with the Quest 2.0 ecosystem that there would be people that would be very upset about it, because they were the people that were just literally like, we can see all this is all data we can see. We saw it was the same group of people that were just literally every week trying to get as much as they could out of the game, sell as much as they could. And that's all they were doing. They weren't playing any content. They weren't doing guild wars. They weren't doing anything. And we realized we're like, well, that can't work long term. And the players that are investing in their character and playing the game 12 hours a day, they're getting almost nothing, right? And we're like, why would we want that setup, right? Why would we don't want that loop? And so really we've been looking more and more at like, kind of like contribute to earn or something like that. Like, how can we reward the people that are, growing their guild, growing their character strength, buying, like spending money, because that is important as well. Like, how do we reward them for benefiting the game as a whole and the ecosystem as a whole, and not the people that are literally doing none of that? And so we knew there would be some people really upset about it. And I told the community management team, I'm like, just so you guys know, like, be ready. There's going to be people really upset, but there's also going to be a lot of people really happy about it. And the upset people are usually more vocal than the people that are happy. But we've seen it with enough data that we made the right choice, and we're so glad we did. And ultimately, we want to reward the top players, and we have more changes that we're going to continue to bring. That again, like we just added the where you get like a free quest withdrawal for every quest spent. The goal is like we don't want to punish the people that are supporting the ecosystem. And like, we want to allow them to extract what they want, but we don't want the people that are like not doing any support to be able to just max extract. So we're going to continue to kind of change those models. We might even lean heavier into like the fee-free withdrawal, maybe increase the fee for people who spend nothing. Like in a perfect world, someone who gets like 1,000 quests and they spend 500 and they're like, I want to sell the other 500 for cash. That's totally fine with us.
I see.
We want to avoid the person who's like gaming the system to just try and pull out as much as possible every day. So we're going to continue to make changes there. And yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, very good indeed. Especially the part where like makes sense now to have invest in the gear. Like one of the things that we
Exactly.
usually heard people on the APDP leaderboard saying is it doesn't make sense to invest in the
Yeah.
gear. Well, now actually it does, right?
Now
The
with
leaderboard
now
is
with
very rewarding.
expeditions and arena leaderboard and all those things, right? Now, like and we kind of said this for a while. We're like, guys, like we know that it's not really worth progressing your character much. We're making changes to that, and we're glad that it's been seen that we have. But we kind of just kept saying, we're like, trust us, keep pushing your character. We're it'll be worth it. And now we've shown that it really is, because now the players who didn't, they're upset. They're like, oh, like these players that are first place on the leaderboard, like how do we ever catch up to them? It's like, dude, they've been playing 14 hours a day since launch, reinvesting everything into their character. You haven't done any of that. So, and we're okay with them being upset. So
Is the end
That's the
game
important part, I would say.
is the end game content that was missing, and now we have this. It's really nice. This last update is the reason that we invest all the time up to here.
yeah, I'm glad, and we'll keep doing that. Like now, like our focus is end game content, right? We have a very deep game. And so we don't have to like worry about like, oh, let's add more level 30 content or anything. We have a lot there. Now it's like, okay, let's build raids. Let's build, side horizontal progression like MOA racing and the Monk Carnival. Let's build new fun stuff. So it's the most exciting time as a studio, because you got to like make new kind of things, right? Let's make these new weapons that are unique. Let's make, this boss raid that, stuff like that. So
Cool.
Indeed, yeah. By the way, to see if the community talks have been aligning with what you guys think so far, because there's been a lot of talks in the tavern related to expeditions. There's a feeling that they might be over rewarding a bit much and almost replacing other contents. Like in expedition, you can get augments done that you're supposed to get from bosses, or war shard fragments that you're supposed to get from GVG. Isn't this something that in the long term might be bad for this other content?
Yeah, I think whenever you introduce new content to a game, you always want to like you try and obviously make it as balanced as possible, but you would always rather be on the too good side than the too weak side. Because if we released expeditions and you guys do it and you're like, I got like no rewards, this is stupid, like why would I ever do this again? Well, now you're not even going to play anymore. You're like, oh, that's dumb. Okay, I waited a month for this, or 3 months for this expansion, and it's not even worth doing. So we would always rather be on like this was too rewarding, and then scale it back, which we already did do some adjustments, and we'll continue to do a few more. Especially like we don't want content completely competing for itself. Like we don't want a certain content not worth doing because of a new piece of content. And so we'll continue to make changes there, but we generally like to lean on the side of like, let's make sure it's really worth doing, and then we can reduce it rather than the alternative there. So.
Yes, because right now, as Nicaz mentioned, we have the augment stones, we have war shards, and we also have ring fragments. For example, we don't even need to run it outside. It is all the rewards from all the contents that we have on the Robin Quest is just inside the expeditions. Yeah, for me, it also is very too rewarding.
Yeah, too much. Yeah.
Too much.
Yeah, and like with Warforged currency, for example, one of the biggest asks since the day we added Guild Wars into Raven Dawn like a year ago, and with Raven Quest, has been from PvE players saying like, hey, I don't want to be in a guild. I don't want to do PvP. I'm not a PvP player, which about 70% of players aren't. And they're like, I can't do this piece of content. like, because it's not just like a cosmetic that you get. It's like an upgrade to your weapon. You kind of need to do it. And there's some people that just hate PvP. They're like, I don't like PvP in games. And to some level, you can be like, okay, well, you have to do a rift. Okay, whatever. Okay. But like, we want to also make an alternative route. But the problem is it's too much is the issue, right? So if you get a little bit of Warforging shards, that's fine, but we don't want to make it so guild wars aren't worth doing either. And to be clear, we haven't seen that yet because people are still doing a ton of Aether Echoes. They're still doing guild wars, all that kind of stuff. But it is still too high. So we do want to reduce it, but we also want to give them that option, you know?
I see.
With that thinking in mind, by the way, is that correct to assume that in the future we may, especially for PvP players that might not be interested, for example, in expeditions, to get their gems from another content?
Yeah, so that's kind of what we're looking at doing is we want to make sure that there's alternatives for players to be able to do different pieces of content that they prefer and still kind of get that progress. It's just always like, that battle of, okay, we want to make sure that it doesn't replace other content, but we also want to give an alternative. So like a perfect world is like, okay, maybe there's some PvP content we bring, maybe Battlegrounds or something, where you get gems, but at a much lower rate, right? And then with expeditions, it allows you to have Warforging shards, but at a much lower rate as well, right? So kind of like, okay, you should go PvP. Guild Wars are going to give you way more, but at the same time, you don't have to, right? Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense indeed. Another thing that the community has been very vocal about has been about the swings in the silver value, right? We can see infusions costing double, almost triple the price. We can see the silver to quest rate also fluctuating a bit, I would say. And some part of the community say, okay, that really don't mind because the important one is the quest, but is that how you think? But
so that
perspective.
Of course, that's one of the hardest parts with managing like an MMORPG economy is, especially when you're Web3, because we have to think about land prices, silver value, and quest, right? And you can't because when silver went all the way down to 10,000 silver per quest, a lot of the community was also like, oh, like this is ridiculous. Like it's so expensive to get silver because like there's players that just buy up quests to exchange for silver, right? And so now those people are really happy because like, oh, I can get way more silver now for the same amount of quest, right? And so you kind of have like both sides that get upset. So we try to we want a happy medium. We don't want it to be too far in either direction. We want it to kind of be in that middle. I've talked about this a bit. Like some people think it's from like the marketplace using Quest. It absolutely is not. Like, so the way that we do it with the marketplace is essentially, we can't fully automate it because it would be very abusable, but essentially that Quest is used to buy up silver in that exchange. But we also use the silver sunk from the taxes from the marketplace. So for example, if like if 10 million silver is sunk on fees from the silver side, then that won't be taken out of that quest. And that quest is actually burned, right? Because that's also good, right? People want quests to be burned. And with that, like the marketplace side is a massive sink of quest right now.
But the silver,
what really...
with this situation, the silver are not burning anymore when you are using the silver taxes to pay these people with the silver.
So when the quest is converted back to silver, it is like that silver is taken out of the game, right? Because we're essentially doing that on our side. However, like because we have very clear data on how much silver is generated, it's sunk in each thing, every single thing. And this is the answer that fishers don't want to hear. Fishing is like 90% of the problem right now. Fishing, I'll share some data here with you guys. Fishing right now contributes to 46% of silver generated in Raymond Quest. This was way lower before the expansion. And there's multiple pieces here. So one piece is with the expansion, we saw a lot more players wanting to grind silver to either get quests to whatever. So we saw like a massive uptick in activity of people grinding or fishing for silver because most of that silver generated that I'm mentioning is actually from high level players. It's not from low level players or like anything like that. It's actually mainly from high level players. And that was because we made a change, like rewarding, making a higher chance to catch higher level fish. And we also took out the non-saltwater fish. So that also skyrocketed the value. So really, the amount of silver coming from fishing has skyrocketed since the expansion. And so we have some pretty big changes coming to that. But just like on the launch, fishing was way overpowered and it was causing massive silver inflation. As soon as we made those changes, fishers were upset, players were upset that wanted to farm silver. And then a week later, we started seeing silver value go up again, right? And silver generation went down. And then it was the opposite. Players were like, oh, it's too hard to get silver. It's too expensive, all that stuff. So it's always trying to find a middle ground. But the nice part is like, yeah. And the nice part is that it doesn't take very long to correct that, right? Like we bring in a few things. We also like to more lean into like, let's bring in new sinks instead for silver. And we have an incredibly strong new sink coming pretty quick. So everyone will be very excited about that. But really looking at, so like one, we need to get fishing back under control. We need to make some changes there again, which we're already designing. And then two, we also just need to bring in new silver sinks. And three, the prepaid infusions from expeditions were also a huge part of that because the amount of silver spent on infusions, like to upgrade gear, literally went down by 50%. So that's a massive amount of silver that wasn't being sunk either. So it's always kind of balancing all of them. And so like it can be just like, oh, this was a change, so this is the problem. But then we look at the data and we're like, oh, no, it's actually these three other things that also were changed that is the real problem there. So we need to get that under control. And once we do, we'll see within a week, silver is going to be in a better spot again.
Good to hear that because nowadays the community just talk about this, the inflation inside the game. It's good to learn that. Nice.
Yeah.
It's even we can safely say then, given that you said that you guys have data on it, that nobody's printing silver out of nowhere.
No,
we can put this rumors aside.
No. It all counterbalances, but like, well, fishers are printing silver out of nowhere. And that's the hardest part with fishing because it is like killing a creature, right? It's generating silver. And so what's important is like, again, it is like, previously, before the expansion, it was about 29% of silver generated, which is okay. It is a purely silver generating activity, but it went up like near double, which is a huge problem, right? And part of that again is some people went back to fishing because they're like, oh, I want silver now, and there's a lot of reasons for that. It's not always that simple, but yeah.
I see.
It's good to know. Yeah, indeed.
Good to know.
I have something that I want to ask because I've been playing as a healer, as a cleric since Ravendawn and RavenQuest, right? And I do recognize the efforts that you guys have been doing so far to make me able to do content. But I still crave for some content where I can help people. Is it? I know that you mentioned that there's something on the pipeline. How soon can we see it?
So just to give some context here, I almost always play healer in MMOs. I'm a healer in WoW Arena. I love playing healers. So we can relate there. And you can also know that we're not abandoning you because if anything, I'm the number one voice for you guys. Ultimately, when we look at content, everyone can play solo content for the most part. I understand as a healer, it's harder, etc. I get that. But there's a lot of players who just don't want to play in groups. And so we have to be careful to remember that like if we bring new solo content, everyone enjoys it or most enjoy it. If we bring group content, only a certain percentage of the community will, right? With that though, we felt like expeditions were kind of that last like really important piece for us to get in, that like late game loop for all players to participate in. Now we're kind of able to look at like, okay, now how do we bring the really fun stuff, right? So the biggest thing that it's already in development, like the world design's done for it, the illustration will be coming out soon. The art assets are being done for it. It's a very big boss, so it's a lot of work. And it's a very different boss from what we've done because it's actually it's not like a moving boss. He's actually like on a ledge of this cavern and he's like fighting from the ledge. It's really cool. But our next big thing that we want to put a lot of focus in is raids. So group raids where you will absolutely need a healer. There's going to be no doubt about it. You'll absolutely need a tank. And we're even building some mechanics to maybe need 2 healers and maybe 2 tanks and stuff like that. So really more of that kind of content now is a huge focus. And allowing you guys to, because as a healer, you don't need 24/7 maybe group content. Sometimes it's fun to, do a little solo, but we want to make sure that there's like a very clear need for you. So like, once a day, people are like, hey, we need you, right? Like that's what you want as a healer. You're like, I want to play my role, right? And then also group spawns are a huge focus on that. Like we'll have group spawns coming out pretty soon. There's only one more spawn to finish, and then we'll be shipping that. And so that'll come out before raids, but then raids as well. And we're also going to be adding some fun mechanics to group spawns as well, where it kind of brings more value for a healer as well. So really trying to, build small party PvE and large party PvE.
Cool.
Oh, indeed, that makes me very hopeful. And
Good.
I know you don't want to spoil anything, but just to piggyback still on this topic, right? With the recent update, like we had a lot of instance content, like expeditions, arenas, and stuff. There's something on the open world that can make the open world feel alive, and maybe this new content will
This is
be
another
the open world.
this is another important point from the community, mainly for the PvP community.
Yeah. So I'll share a couple pieces of alpha here in a sec. First thing I'm going to share is the open world PvP community is always going to be the most hardcore part of a game, right? Because one, they not only are a PvPer, which is already going to be, like right now about 30% of our community are PvP first, which is very high for an MMO. Most MMOs are nowhere near that high. But then the open world PvPers are going to be even more hardcore because they're like, I just want to kill people in the open world, right? Like they're going to be a very hardcore part of the community. We saw that with the survey, right? When we asked them, like, what do they want to see more of with PvP? Almost like the over half of people voted for just a single of the 4 options, which was more instance PvP, right? But that doesn't change the fact that I love open world PvP. I grew up playing Tibia, so I've had my share of wars and killing a random person trying to drag a loop egg back from dragons and stuff. Like I've gone through that. And so a couple of things that we want to bring. So a little bit of alpha here. One, we want to bring back more frequent PvP regions. We reduced that because we were in a position where a lot of PvE players who didn't really want a PvP, they couldn't complete any quests. They couldn't go grind because most of the regions were always in PvP. We're changing the system where instead what we're going to have is there will be about half of the high level regions will always be, or not always PvP, but half of them will be PvP when the other half are not. So there's always an option for PvE players to go to a PvE area, but then there'll be more PvP regions again. But on top of that, we're going to be increasing the bonus for the PvP regions. So right now it's a 5% loot and experience bonus. We're actually going to be increasing that by a good amount. And we're also making it a unique bonus. So instead of just 5% more silver and EXP, it'll be like this region right now is plus X% EXP. This one's plus X% loot. This one's plus X% gathering or something like that. So that there's like each, and it'll change constantly. So every time it goes into PvP, it'll be a random one. And so really it'll be like, allow you to go, hey, I need some silver. I'm going to go to the loot one right now. I want to push EXP. I'm going to go to the EXP one. But making the bonuses much higher, so there's a much bigger reason to go to them, and then more PvP will happen. But then also call dies. We want to bring more competition with call dies, and so we're also making changes with that. And then on top of that, we have legendary fishing coming probably next week. We have it scheduled right now for next week. So assuming nothing goes wrong, it will come next week, and that'll be for more open world ocean PvP. They kind of are like call dies, but on the ocean. So really ramped up fishing rewards, but it'll be like a fisher and a pirate's dream. So we're trying to bring all of that together to bring much more reason open world PvP, because open world PvP, there has to be a reason to want to do it, right? Like exactly. You guys want to go fight somebody, But if there's no reason for another person to come challenge you, they just won't if they think they're going to lose, right? But if there's bonuses there, they will. And so that's a big goal for us there is how do we bring much more activity to that in a more condensed area while also allowing the PvE players to go do their quests and kill creatures as well if they don't want. But then the PvPers, they get a nice added bonus, you know?
To be honest, I think that we already have the answer for the reason to make a PvP open world. For example, nowadays we have a leaderboard for fun. For example, if in the plunder, for example, get more fun than normal channel as a result of the battle, should be nice to have more fun in the plunder channel, for example. It's one of the easy solution for that. But
and I, just to share on that, that is also something we're working on, especially with Cold Eyes. And we're also building this relic system that's really cool. Like you fight over a relic in the PvP region.
Cool.
So you actually have to like protect the relic for a certain amount of time. Other guilds can come and try and steal the relic. But with all of those things, you're exactly right. Like while PvP might be a smaller part of the community, it makes for some of like the best content, right? Like there's nothing more fun than watching a creator in a war, right? Like that is some of the coolest content.
For sure.
And so while it's a smaller part of the community, perhaps still a big part of the community, but smaller, we also see a lot of benefit to it because we want to make those storylines. We want to see TGG and GG fighting over a relic. We want to see them fighting over a legendary fishbowl. Like we want to see those things. So just to be clear, like while I say, yeah, maybe it wasn't a priority, it's not to say that it's not something that we care about or something that we see a value in, because we definitely do.
Cool. Good to learn that. Still into this topic, there aren't any plans for world bosses or territory-based objectives, like something like that?
Yeah. So that's kind of what relics are. So we have a world boss system that we designed a long time ago. Something that we love. The idea is basically you fight over a world boss. It's a PvP area. When it dies, trade packs like fall down from the sky in a big area. And so not only do you have to kill the world boss, but then you actually fight over the trade packs as well and try and get them to safety. The biggest thing is building out world bosses is a lot of work, of course. We want them to be big, bad, and scary and cool and have cool mechanics. And all of these things are a massive amount of work to do, where we kind of looked at it and we're like, okay. And when I say a massive amount of work, it's not that we don't want to do it, because making world bosses is more fun than making most things. The more thing is like, if we have 100 things to do, how can we, like, when do we schedule it, right? And so with world bosses, we were like, okay, the intention of the system is to bring people together to PvP, kind of like Cold Eyes, right? The idea is here's a really nice bonus, which we need to make better. We will, but it's a reason for people to come together to one place to fight, right? And so that's when we kind of looked at it and we're like, okay, well, if that's the intention, do we need to do a whole PvE experience just for that intention? Yes, it would be really cool. And yes, we still want to do it. And it's not that we're not going to do it, but maybe we can do something much, much simpler that has a similar goal, maybe not as cool, but it's still going to have the same goal or result, which is kind of what we're looking at with our shrines or relics. So the idea is a shrine or relic spawns in a zone and you have to protect it or fight over it.
I see.
Because that's something that we can make way, way, way faster, but it still brings that goal of everyone goes to one place to fight over something.
Cool.
So that's kind of how we look at things. And yeah.
Talking about this open world content, do you have any word about big guilds against small guilds? Sorry. Let's try to expand. Maybe the rewards being just with the big guilds. How do you see this thing?
That's one of the hardest parts around this kind of content, right? Is like, you know, like if you look at like who's asking for more open world PvP, it's GG, TGG, right? Like it's going to be the dominant guilds because they know, you know, this is going to be great for them. Same with the plunder channel, right? Like who's asking for more? Like the reality is most players never play on the plunder channel. And then the big guilds will be like, oh, like make the Plunder channel better, right? And it's like, hey, you guys are already dominating there, right? And that's really tricky. And so when we look at open world PvP rewards, what we want to focus on is not like, oh, you can only progress if you do it, because there's going to be guilds that just can't, or solo players or whatever. More like, how do we just give them kind of like the Plunder channel? How do we give better rewards for doing it, but not that you're forced to do it, right?
I see.
So yeah, so that's kind of what our focus is there. And yeah.
There are any chance to you have alliance systems? For example, I'm from CT. The cartel is a small guild with 20, 30 people, more or less. And we have some friends from PvP guild that has also 20 or 30 players. Small guilds being allied. There are any chance to have this kind of system?
Yeah, so I think let me just make a quick note here,
No problem.
because that just gave me an idea on that. So one thing that's always tough with alliance systems, and we see this in any MMO that has it and they have PvP, is what you think will happen is, okay, a bunch of smaller guilds will ally up together to rival the big guild, right? And you're like, oh wow, okay, like that's awesome. What actually happens is the big guild picks up even more guilds, and they become this superpower that no one can stop, right? That's actually what usually happens. It's very rare that the opposite happens. And it actually makes the problem even worse than if you just didn't have an alliance system. However, as you said that, I was realizing, like, what if we made an alliance system that allowed you to still be your own guild instead of having to merge guilds, but you could only alliance up to the amount of like a single guild. So for example, and sorry here on TGG, but like you guys couldn't just go alliance with 3 huge guilds, but maybe like a bunch of smaller guilds could alliance up together to be able to fight one bigger guild, but only up to like the same amount of members, right? I think something like that's actually a very interesting approach.
Yes, because nowadays we see a lot of advantages to being part of a big guild. It is not good for the game. The game has just a few guilds, big guilds, and just 2 or 3 guilds is not good for the game. It's better to have more smaller guilds and fighting.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, totally. And that's why we have certain mechanics like guild crest going up in cost and things like that. To try to give it reasons for smaller guilds, we need to make more. There's no doubt. But like what we've seen, because even just going over like guild leaderboard stuff, kind of the way it looks is there's like, I probably shouldn't leak this because these guilds are working on something, but no, I really shouldn't, because they're probably really pissed at me. You guys are the enemy, okay? You guys are no, but really there's like 2 guilds that are neck and neck right now, like TGG and GG, when it comes to like most data, right? And there may be a third one that will happen here. And 3 is a nice spot to be in, but there will always be like the top guilds. But then when we look at like the next like 12 to 18 guilds, it is very like they're all very close. They're lower, of course, like compared to the top one. Sorry, they're much lower than the top couple right now, but they're all like very close to each other. And so that's why even with like the guild expedition leaderboard, like we know it'll be kind of a fight over that top spot, but then we know there'll be like a really interesting fight from the next like dozen after that, right? It'll be very cool to see, because I could see any of them coming, 3rd or 4th place. However, I do agree that like the difference there is too big, and we want to improve that. And it's hard to ever make it perfect, because if you make better things for small guilds, the big guilds say, well, why should we be a big guild? This is, not good anymore. And then the other side is bad as well. And we kind of had that before. Like the big guilds were like, why would we want more people with guild crest? We're not getting more for it. We're actually just paying more. So that's why we made the renown change, and that's been really good. But now we also need to make sure that the other side is, it's always back and forth, right? It's always back and forth. So, but there are ways that we can make it good for both, right? We can make things like, okay, maybe this is a benefit of a smaller guild, and maybe this is a benefit of a bigger guild. Which benefit is better for you depends on the type of player you are, right? That's the perfect result for us, I guess you could say.
I see.
It's hard to get there.
Okay, looking for the future of the Having Quest, what can players expect from the future expansions or updates? What you can expect?
Ooh. All right. Well,
Just
let
an
me.
ideas. Free
No,
ideas.
no, yeah. Let me spoil some stuff here. So we shared a graphic with kind of stuff that's coming soonish. Like so the gear transfers, which came today, legendary fishing pools, which we're hoping comes next week. The new PvP region changes, the new fame pool, which also came yesterday, group raids, the new trophy system is coming pretty soon. We're very excited about that. And a very large silver sink, and also for players who don't want to spend money to push their renown higher, it allows them to get some renown with playing in game. So we like that a lot as well. And then on top of that, Moa Racing and the Monk Carnival. This is something we're very fucking excited about. Not only because we've seen the community was way more excited than we expected, but it's been really fun to build because we have a lot of fun ideas too. We want to there's lots of cool stuff around it. Group respawns, which are coming quite soon as well. And then group raids, which will be a bigger one. That will kind of be probably the last thing in that list. But then on top of that, we have so we have quite a few stuff.
Cool.
We have some stuff coming to professions. We have some stuff coming to farming to allow you to do bigger crops. So instead of having to do potatoes 1 by 1, you're able to plant 2 by 2 potatoes, so 4 at a time instead of 1 at a time. So that's something that we have coming. We have unique profession recipes coming. There's it feels like there's no, if you, I'm looking at my Trello right now. So I organize my stuff. I have I have a bunch of areas which are game design ideas, high, low, medium, very high, top. And there's 40 cards in each. We have 5 years of content that we want to make, that we have ideas for already. It's just when do we do each of them? And then every week new ideas come. So
I see.
yeah, but those are the main things that we're working on right now.
Your team has a lot of work to do. Follow your ideas.
Even if we had 1,000 staff, we would still never run out of ideas.
I see.
Every day I come in with new ideas and they're like, Nighters, stop.
Just
We need to
stop.
finish. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I was almost forgetting something. 2 points that I forgot to mention is that nowadays we have a lot of new content. For example, arenas to do, expedition, for example, new archetypes, and we did not has a new slot of
Equipment?
Nicaz, me ajuda. Slot de arquetipos. Archetypes,
Archetype
slots. Yeah, new setups for the archetypes.
Like
We have the
having
builds, 'cause we
more.
only have up to 10 builds. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah,
should have
that's
more.
not hard. Yeah,
should-
that's not hard for us to add more of. So
Yeah,
add
it should-
more archetype.
Yeah,
slots.
more
Okay.
setups.
Yeah,
more
no.
setups.
That's perfect.
Another important thing that I almost forgot. Today we have an important update where we can transfer our gear from one equipment without losing this equipment. But the point is, in the future, can we also transfer the two-handed weapons for one-handed and vice versa?
Yeah. This is something that we want to do as well. It's a little trickier for them. There's quite a few things that don't swap over very well. Augmenting stones is one of them. So definitely something that we want to provide as well, so you guys can switch weapon types more freely. But step by step, right? So this was an important one especially for healers, so they can just have a DPS set as well, but also just for tanks, but also DPS players who just want to try a different build. Before, it was really hard to just try a different build and you're kind of stuck with a certain build or a certain weapon type, right? You couldn't, if a weapon got nerfed, well, now you're screwed, right? And so that was a part of the reason we wanted to bring that in as well. Because sometimes we need to nerf things and buff things and whatnot. We don't want people to feel like, oh, I'm stuck now. Of course there is, you maybe crafted a certain weapon that you like a lot, and we understand that still sucks, but we do also have to do balances, right? We are a live service game, so it makes it less painful when we do a balance, at least.
I see. Nicaz, can you do community questions? I think that we have just 3 community questions.
Yeah, we did. We actually reached for a couple of people from the community, and we eyeballed the tavern as well because there's always good discussions there.
Mm.
And one of the cool questions that we received are actually from we call him Aikatsu because that was his name on Ravendal, and we never got used to the new one, with
Yeah.
the word Pakshki, something like this, from the PvP guild.
Don't change your
So
name.
he said, yeah, it's Aikatsu. It's forever be Aikatsu for us.
Yeah.
That is one big turnoff for MMORPG players who hear about Raven Quest is the prejudice against crypto and NFT.
I know.
And I second
Yeah.
it because I'm one of those.
Yeah.
Do you think
Yeah.
this game can create a bridge between both worlds? And if so, how do you plan to do it?
Yeah, that's been like the hardest thing because funny enough, like majority of our community, they're all just Web 2 gamers. Like we don't have a lot of Web 3 gamers. And we've never that's never been where we've excelled because a lot of Web 3 gamers, again, if they're farmers, they're looking for where can I make the most money? I don't care if the game is fun or not. And then Web 2 gamers, they just want a fun game. And the crypto element definitely hurts us a lot. Something that we're wanting to do is we want to the best path forward I see for Web3 games, and which is something that I think a lot are just being really oblivious to, is it's already a nice feeling when you buy a cosmetic in a game and then when you stop playing, you can sell that cosmetic. Because now instead of spending $10 and losing $10, you're spending $10 and maybe losing $5, right? But you got to use that cosmetic, right? That's a good feeling. The problem with Web3 games is everyone's like, I want to buy this cosmetic for $10 and I better get, more than $10. And it's like, well, that's not possible. Like long term, right? That can only work short term because money has to come from somewhere, right? And so something that we've been trying to push a stronger narrative on is don't look at it as I need to profit playing a game. More look at it as I'm getting something back playing a game, and that's better than getting nothing back playing a game. Really hard to change that sentiment because you're trying to change every single other, person that maybe isn't involved in the community. But that's what we're really trying hard to push. And with that, we also can see our community already shifting where a lot of players come in and they play the game for a day and they're like, wait, this is a Web3 game? They didn't even know, right? And a way that we can do that better is, for example, land, Raven cards, all that kind of stuff. Instead of having it on Token Trove with a wallet and requiring to do all those things, why can we not just build that out in game? So they can use the currency in the game and do that peer-to-peer. Because the reality is if let's say land and stuff, you would buy it peer-to-peer through the marketplace in the game with lucky coins or silver, no one would ever be like, oh, this is a Web3 game, right? They'd be like, oh, I'm just playing this game, right? But meanwhile, that could still all have a third-party market. But it is really difficult, right? It's how do we overcome that? And I think, I know we've done a better job overcoming that than any other game in Web3, other than maybe Off the Grid. They've done a really good job too. But it is a really hard uphill battle. And that's been something that we've been looking at a lot as a team too, right? How do we bridge that gap? Because these are all problems that we see a thread on Raven Quest and people are like, oh, this is a great game, you should check it out. And then the next 10 comments are like, LOL, Web3, crypto scam, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, oh, that sucks. Or even when we run ads, right? There will be people that we get a lot of signups from an ad and we're like, awesome. But then the comments are people that are like, oh, Web3, rug pull, whatever. And how do you fight that? You can't fight that by yourself, right? The whole space has to be able to fight that. And they're not going to. There are lots of scams and rug pulls out there. And so, and because this is not a problem we had with Raven Dawn, right? When Raven Dawn, when a thread would go up or an ad would go up, it would, there'd be negative comments as always, but for the but it's stuff that doesn't carry the same weight because you said, because some people see that and they're like, oh, a Web3 game? No, those are all scams, right? I'm not going to play that.
Yeah.
Where if someone says oh, this game is really grind heavy, well, some people might see that and be like, oh, I like grindy games. Sweet, I'm going to play, right? It's not as negative, right? And so it is something that we're constantly trying to navigate. And I think the best way forward for Raven Quest is a few different routes. And one of those is trying to make it as non obvious as possible, so they never really notice. And a lot of players have that already, because you don't need you don't need a wallet to play, you don't need it to sign up. You know, it's an additional thing. A lot of people think they're just getting premium currency with Quest, right? They're like, oh, I got this Quest thing. Oh, cool. It's like a premium currency. We want to try and make everything feel that way. So from every step, when it comes to marketplace, like instead of token trove, like being able to do it all just in the game, right? And never knowing that you're even engaging with the blockchain side. But there'll always be that uphill battle. And the only way that changes is if the whole Web3 community just gets better. And I'm going to be honest, I don't know, that could take 10 years because every week I think it's getting better. And then I see another Bitcoin miner game or some bullshit and the whole thing happens again. So it's really hard.
I see.
Yeah, it's always refreshing hearing from the Web3 that the focus is on the game and not on just making money and going to the next one. Right?
I need to say, Niter, for us Web2 gamers, the Lucky Coin was a very nice solution for the problem to buy token.
Yeah. And that's been a big part of it. Like when we brought that in, like we had data that showed when we got rid of like traditional purchases, like only 5% of people went and bought Quest and then used Quest. And so we're like, why wouldn't we just instead make revenue, still have lots of Quest syncs, but why don't we find a way to make it so a Web2 gamer can still support us? Because we had so many people that would message us and be like, listen, I don't want to figure out a DEX, but I want to buy this thing. Can you just make it so I can buy it? Because I'll buy it right now. And we had that for months. And the nice part is, like, I'll be very transparent here. For pretty much since launch, we were basically making no money. We were basically just burning money every month because we were a huge team behind the game, making a whole expansion. And at the same time, we weren't selling any Quest and we were only allowing people to pay in Quest. And at a certain point, we're like, well, we can't just do this forever. Like, we're going to go bankrupt. We're going to have to shut the studio down, right? And so we were looking at different changes and we're like, we don't want to sell our Quest into the market. We don't want to do that. Like, it feels shitty. People get upset, like all this. We're like, let's just bring back traditional revenue and add more Quest syncs and allow people to actually get Quest easier. And it's done exactly what we hoped for. And with that, like, we'll be doing our first buybacks pretty quick here. And like, now we can do that. We could never do buybacks for because we had no revenue, right?
I see.
So now we're able, like, as the community spends money and supports us more, we're able to bring like a much better like reward loop, right? Like, community spends money, we can get more rewards for them. They get more rewards to people that are spending money. And it's a nice loop, right? And that's the only way it actually works long term. And
You said the important point that when you launch the Lucky Coin, you said that part of this profit you be to buy back this token. Right now we see
to be clear, all of the profit. So even 100% of it is used for buybacks.
Cool that you say that, because nowadays we see that since the launch of this last update, Treasure Below, we see the token going down. But right now we are planning to buy back all the profit with the Look Coin to bring back the token, right?
Yeah, exactly. And also land too. Like, we're going to be buying up, burning, locking land, but also like a big thing that we see is also how can we like better set up incentives as well. Like, there's a lot of pieces there. And when it comes to like the Quest, like, the reality is, like, most of the people that are getting rewarded Quest, like from these leaderboards, they're actually just spending pretty much all of it. The reality that we need to improve, and something that we have made some really good steps in, is the heavy extractors, like, that are getting it not from the leaderboard, from other things. How do we stop them from just continuing to dump, right? Because you can look at it, it's all on chain, right? Like, we do it every week, we go through it. There's kind of the same group that continue to dump, and now they're not able to dump as much, but it's really the same kind of groups. And we don't want to say that they shouldn't get anything, but they should also be supporting the game as well, right? We don't want them just hurting everybody. So it's really like continuing to build that out better, and then also really like, okay, now we can actually cook here, and yeah.
Cool.
All right. Yeah, we have another question. This one is from one of the leaders of TGG, MCLZ.
Oh, that fucking guy. All right. Yeah. Okay. Bring it on. Bring it on.
Yeah, but it's a pretty chill one, and to be honest, I'm
He-
the
he-
most interested
I
in this
jo-
one.
I joke, by the way, he cares a lot about the game. Like he sends me a lot of really mean messages, but I also know he cares a lot. So while I joke there, we love people that care about the game, and he definitely does. So
Yeah, he's a typical Brazilian. He's very vocal of the things that he loves. Yeah. The funny stuff, actually. We usually, when we start complaining too much on the call, he's usually the one that say, "Go away with this all negativity."
Oh, that's nice. I appreciate hearing that. I appreciate that. And no game is ever perfect. Like we're always gonna have things to improve, new content. Like there'll never be none of that. But at the same time, like we do feel like we're making the right steps. We're making, new content has been good. Like we'll continue to keep moving in the right direction. And that feedback's also important. So anyways, on with this question.
Yeah. So the question is basically, unfortunately, crashes are still a reality. In the recent update, we had the crash pad really in the new release, right? Is this helping out in troubleshooting the ongoing issue with crashes?
Definitely. So the amount of crashes went down a lot over the last few months. Some people get them still a lot, but the amount of people getting them went, because we know from our ticket system, right? If we see like, 1 in 10 users having this problem versus 1 in 100, that's a good thing. And that was ultimately because we made some massive reworks. Again, the reality when it comes to crashes, like they can sometimes take weeks, sometimes months to find the source of it. It can be so hard. It's finding a needle in a haystack. Like the one that we fixed about a month ago that had a huge improvement for most players. It took us like a month to find that with one of our senior engineers. The crash pad though, with that, it helps a massive amount with getting data, but that takes time as well, right? So we get the data, but we need to get enough of it. And then we also still, it points us in a better direction, but it doesn't just mean like, change this and we're good, right? But it makes it, instead of finding a needle in a haystack, it's like finding a needle in like a bundle of hay, right? It's much quicker. Yep. So it's only been 2 weeks since the expansion launch, and now like we're able to utilize that. But at the same time, it takes a couple weeks to get enough data to really point in the right direction. But it's been very helpful, yeah.
Cool. That's good to know. One step closer to solving this. Yeah, we have one final question from the community, and this one wasn't a question by someone itself. It's more of an interesting discussion that I saw some people involved in the tavern, in the Brazilian tavern. The main one talking was Galton, by the way, who usually does very good feedback related to ever since Raven downtimes. And basically the discussion was about, is the game shifting towards a less role-based class approach with the introduction of multiple sets and stuff? So the idea is not to have the healer, the tank, and more like you can be wherever you want. We want to kind of defeat the idea of the Holy Trinity.
Yeah, I've always loved Holy Trinity games. Like I prefer an MMO that's a Holy Trinity. However, there's also a lot of problems with it, right? One of the problems that you're aware of is, how do I do expeditions? I'm a healer, right? And so it brings really big problems as well. And so I think what we're leaning towards is more like, how do we allow the healer to then not be a healer, but then be a healer when there's content they want to heal, right? And so that's more we're trying to lean into, not so much where like everyone can like not need a healer, which I would say is like the opposite of a Holy Trinity, where everyone has the same healing. Like BDO is Black Desert Online is a great example, where everyone kind of heals the same amount, everyone kind of does the same damage, stuff like that. We want to more lean into like allowing you to be that healer role, but then not be when you don't want to be. Kind of like WoW with like changing from Discipline Priest or Holy Priest to Shadow Priest, right? And we'll continue to make adjustments, but our goal is not to move the game towards no Holy Trinity or no need for a Holy Trinity. It's actually, how do we bring in more need for the Holy Trinity, but also not a requirement to play the game either, right? So yeah, raids, you're going to need a healer. You're going to need a tank. Cool. And we're even leaning into giving tanks more benefits in PvE for tanking, and healers more benefits to healing in PvE. But we don't want to Yeah, we're leaning more into that, but we also want to make sure that we lean into the side of a healer can do expeditions. A healer can do, crazy. Yeah.
Cool. Nice
Both are
to hear
good.
that. Nice to hear that. To closing this episode, I have some quick fires for you. Quick fire questions for you, Niter. Is a short question, and you have to answer the first thing that you think. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
What's your preferred archetype?
Protection.
Oh,
No, makes sense.
I'm not involved in balance. I'm not involved in balance. Don't blame me. But because I think my favorite class is almost always like a paladin or kind of like
Paladin,
hybrid
yeah.
tank healer. And so when you said that, I thought of the first part of paladin, which in my mind was protection. But I would say warfare only, protection.
Cool. All right. Melee or 100 play?
Melee or what?
Or 100?
Sorry.
Range,
Yeah, you
range.
sorry. You guys say R's as H's, so melee for sure.
Melee. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
What's your preferred weapon in the game?
Oh, anytime it's hammers or clubs, like anytime it's maces or hammers.
see.
So yeah.
I see. Saying that, we need some buffs in the clubs.
I know. Listen, I'm saying what my favorite is,
see,
not
I
necessarily
see.
what's the best. Okay. Yeah.
I see your point of view. No problem. What's your most beautiful monster in terms of design in the game?
Whatever the most recent one is, the art team made. No, jokes aside, I love the Astro Demon. That was one of like the
Demon.
first. Well, that was the first boss we did,
I
and so
see.
to me, it has like a sentimental value. Like I remember it really fondly. Even our BGS booth, you fought the demon in a little demo. But I would say, like, without a doubt, what I'm most excited about for creature, and this answer will be different, is going to be the first raid boss, because it is fucking so cool. You guys are gonna love it. Like, as a experience, like it's such a cool experience.
Sounds good.
They're really hyping us up, dude.
Yeah, and I don't feel bad about that because it is sick. It's very cool. So
Cool. Nice. We are closing here. I would ask you do you have any kind of message for our community, for our Brazilian community in special?
I think I shared quite a bit already through this. I would say the biggest thing is just like understand that like we work so hard on this game. Like I can tell you, like our product manager, he is like the amount of nights, this is almost every night, the amount of nights that we'll have a patch at like 5 a.m. or 10 a.m. his time, and it'll be like 1 a.m. and we're both still working on stuff. Like we care so much about what we're building, and I promise, every single step we make is very calculated, very much intentional, and it is constantly with the goal of like, we want to build the best game for years and years to come. But there's also the reality that we are still human. We will still make mistakes. We will release things that we're like fishing with the expansion, where we're like, we did too much here. We got to, we will make mistakes, and we will do everything to correct them. But it sometimes just takes time, right? Sometimes we have a pipeline of stuff for that week already. And, sometimes we can move things around and stuff, but sometimes we actually, just have to be focused on something. Just be patient with us. Like, give us feedback. That's not a problem at all. But when you give us feedback, understand that like you're giving us feedback, so are 1,000 other people, so are 10,000 other people. Like, understand that we want to do all of your feedback, but if there's 1,000 different things, we can only do so many every day, every week, every month, right? So when you give feedback, like give us that feedback. It's very helpful, tells us what we should work on next. But also understand that just because you gave us feedback or a problem or something you want fixed, doesn't mean we can just fix it tomorrow, right? We have 100 other things we're working on. So just be patient. Sometimes things take a while, but I promise you, we're working as hard as we can to do things as fast as possible.
In this point, I need to get you a good feedback when you use to make that videos, the Warforge, the Niter.
Oh, Niter's Forge.
Yeah,
Niter's Forge, yeah.
was a nice feedback that we get from Tavern Line from the community. It was
Yeah.
very nice. You need to do that again.
I will be. I
Yeah.
will be. I've been this last 2 weeks I've been doing a lot more like podcasts and stuff. And that's kind of like my free time. All my
see.
free time is working on the game. Whenever I'm not working, I'm working. Like I'll be eating dinner and I'm putting ideas in my phone. I all I think about 24/7 is Raven Quest and all the games we're building. But with that, I love doing Nighters Forges, and they'll be back really soon here. I'll probably record one this week. It's just I've been doing a lot of podcasts lately, and so I haven't had much time to record them. But I love doing them. It's very fun. These kind of feel similar, like community questions. Here's the answer. But definitely, we'll have more Nighters Forges coming very soon here.
Thank you again, Niter. It was really nice to have you here talking with our community. It was really nice. I love your
No.
resource.
No, dude. I mean, thank you for having me. Like, again, I love doing these things. You guys are like the coolest parts of our community. You're building content around the game. You're spreading love about the game. You're asking great questions. And you guys are like, also leading or involved in guilds. You guys are huge parts of the community, and we want to support this kind of stuff as much as we can. And we're going to be working harder to build out better ways to support you guys as well. But this was kind of like the one thing I was like, I want to start being on more of these community podcasts and bringing that level of support. When you guys put this live, by the way, please send me it because I'm going to put it as an announcement as well. I want to bring more eyes to this kind of cool stuff. So also, I love the name PodQuest is. Yeah. Ranting Raven is a good one as well, but PodQuest is very, very solid.
I hope to see you here soon again.
Let's do it.
Maybe in the last update.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Nicaz, do you have any last question or last message?
Other
I'm
than
pretty
more
hyped
open world
up now.
PvP?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty hyped. You really set the expectations. So now, if you don't deliver, I'm gonna be even more vocal.
We'll
Keep that
live
in
up to
mind.
them. We'll live up to them.
But yeah, thank you very much. It was a very pleasant conversation, man.
Thank you.
This is awesome, guys. Thank you so much for having me. Have a good rest of your day, okay?
Thank you everyone.
Bye.
See you. Bye bye.